Ohio there, this is Kermit the Frog.
I'm Captain Kirk.
Fascinating.
I'm a doctor, not a mechanic.
Thank you, love you. Mwah.
Most illogical.
Aye, sir.
Well, that was different. Yep, lousy, but different.
Places, please, and here we go.
Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, Bolians, chickens, and things, to episode 4 of the MuppeTrek podcast. I'm Jarman.
And I'm Steve. And we are here, as always, to compare, contrast, and confer about our two favorite franchises. Jarman, what are those?
The Muppets and Star Trek. And we'll be doing one-to-one reviews of the Muppet Show and Star Trek, the original series. It's exciting.
And this week, we have a doozy with special Muppet Show guest Jim Nabors and original series episode, The Naked Time, which is not as dirty as it sounds.
There's some half-nakedness, but not full nakedness.
Some half-naked time.
Yeah. And from our last episode 3, we had I forgot the name of the episodes we had, but we had feedback from that, and that's because we talked to some kind of Garf on YouTube who had a strange
Octothorpe.
Yes, said something involving Octothorpe, and also we didn't know the gender of some kind of Garf, and so they say, I'm a dude, don't worry about it. Also, I totally agree about the B plots. I feel they ramp up all right throughout season 1, but when Jack Burns, no offense to the man, a great comedian in his own right, stepped down for Jerry Jewell in season 2, that's really when and why the show clicked. And
Jerry Jewell is, he's like the Muppet writer.
Oh, so it's writers. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And Octothorpe is the old term for what a hashtag is. It's like an antiquated term for that the hash mark sign, or the pound sign, as we used to call it.
Got it. But he was dictating, but he said Octothorpe.
Yeah.
And the dictation didn't get it. Okay.
Which is kind of funny. So, yeah, thanks for that, some kind of Garf, the explanation.
And thank you, because now I know what an Octothorpe is.
Yes, exactly.
So actually, tying on to that note, before we get started all the way, Jack Burns, who you just mentioned, writer of season 1 and co-writer of the Muppet movie, creator of Gags Beasley and the infamous Banana sketch, passed away yesterday.
Yesterday? Wow.
Just yesterday. Yeah. So I'm kind of glad we just talked about him. And
that's so crazy.
And thank you, Jack, as we honor one of your best creations, the start of the Muppet Show.
Yeah, you are living on in this strange podcast world. So there you go. That's crazy. What are the chances?
That being said, some kind of Garf is absolutely correct. It really did get better once Jerry Jewell took over.
I'm looking forward to season 2 then.
Absolutely.
All right. So does that bring us right to our episode rundowns here?
That's right. Okay. Man, there's a lot in this episode.
So I think we wanted to talk about each guest, right, and who they are, if we're not very familiar with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Jim Nabors was a singer, songman, performer, most known for being Gomer Pyle. First on the Andy Grothe show, and then Gomer Pyle USMC, his own spinoff, which ran for 5 or 6 years. Gomer Pyle was an incredibly popular character in that even after Gomer Pyle USMC, on his IMDb page, there are like 15 times he like cameoed or made one-off appearances as Gomer Pyle.
Oh, wow. And also he's from Sylacauga, Alabama, which I've done many radio spots for them for my voiceover career. I do a lot of their country station, their pop station, all that stuff, like WAFL radio, that kind of thing. So I do their tags, basically.
Well, then you have a connection. Good job.
I have a connection to Jim Nabors, his hometown.
So Jim Nabors, he's the host. This is sort of sort of after I think he had finished up, or he was finishing up Gomer Pyle USMC.
Yeah. Looks like his early 40s, maybe. He's not that old yet.
Yeah, no, not that old at all. And he was an incredible singer, and you get to hear it here, and just not what you would expect. Not at all what you would expect. So the episode starts with the musical number "Money" by Dr. Teeth, sung by Dr. Teeth, and this is one of my all-time favorite Muppet Show music numbers. It's just Dr. Teeth, the piano, singing a quick, zippy song about money, money, money. And at the end, he pulls a lever and the piano turns into a slot machine. And it's just, I just love it. I love the song. I love his performance. It's all good.
Very straightforward.
You get the backstage plot where we get a formal introduction of Scooter, who introduces himself to Kermit, who can't hire him until Scooter mentions that his uncle owns the theater. And now Kermit can suddenly find the money in the budget for him.
We see Scooter. Yay.
Yeah, we get the Talking Houses, which is sort of a season 1 only sketch where houses tell house related jokes to each other. It's quick and lame, but at least it's over fast. You get Jim Nabors' first opening number, Gone with the Wind, where you get to hear him sing. And yes, he is lip syncing, but that is his voice.
Yeah, you can tell it has to be his voice.
As things are blown away and a storm rips through, his love is blown away, and eventually his pants as well. You get a Muppet News flash in which Jim Nabors plays.
Stop you. I'm sorry. That sketch was not in my recording.
Yes. So what you have is likely a DVD rip version of season 1 of the Muppet Show.
A totally legal version that I have.
There are, in each episode, there are going to be a handful of things that don't show up in yours.
Oh, I see. Yeah, because it's like, wait, what sketch is that? Because I didn't see that at all.
Yeah, a lot of the times for the DVD releases, the UK specific spots are cut. And in this case, a couple random numbers, I think probably for time.
I see. Yeah, my episode was only 21 minutes long. So
you get him up a news flash where Jim Nabors plays a yokel who has a close encounter with an alien, but they just had to stop and use his bathroom. Backstage again, Scooter tells Kermit that he found the perfect act. Kermit has no room for the act until once again Scooter mentions it is his uncle's favorite act. And next is that terrible act, the Danceros.
Didn't have that sketch either.
Yeah, the Danceros are 2 sets of dancing legs that are next to each other. And then the camera pulls out and you realize it's a 4-legged creature dancing both parts of this dance, which promptly falls down.
I see.
You get a nice little moment between Jim and Animal where Jim tells Animal to break a leg and Animal in turn breaks Jim's leg with a giant mallet.
That was fun and cute. I liked it.
Yeah, absolutely. Backstage, Scooter meets George the janitor. George accidentally badmouths the owner only to have Scooter reveal that it is his uncle. And then George suddenly loves the owner and thinks that problems are part of a theater. You get a quick at the dance that doesn't have a real theme, which is sort of rare. Typically, there's some sort of interwoven theme. And a few of the jokes are a little bit more scandalous than usual, which was kind of fun. You get a musical number with Ralph the dog and his sidekick Baskerville, a song called Dog Eat Dog that I could find no information about. And it's okay. It's just okay. Get the talk spot with Jim Nabors where he talks about his love of all the farm animals around the Muppet Show. And he talks with Piggy, which in this time is played by Frank Oz, about being a Gemini and says that his dual personalities are what allows him to switch between being a yokel like Gomer Pyle and singing opera music.
And he sings a little bit and it's incredible.
It's just incredible. Backstage again, Fozzie got some new jokes from Scooter. He tries them out on a few people who think that they are hilarious, and Fozzie goes to find Scooter for more jokes. You get a Sam the Eagle introduction for Wayne and Wanda, who are going to do a song called Indian Love Call. In true fashion, the song just gets started. Wanda sings one line, and then a Native American, very stereotypically dressed Native American, comes in thinking that she has called for him. Aha, Indian Love Call.
Mm-hmm.
Fozzie goes on and does his act. He finally tells Statler and Waldorf after they've heckled him that he's going to tell them his best joke. They love it, but he reveals, it's actually my worst joke. Jim Nabors plays a security guard at a bakery. Ralph comes in. He tells him to put up his hens, and Ralph pulls up 2 chickens, hens, and the rest of the skit devolves where he keeps misunderstanding Jim Nabors because of his accent and keeps pulling more and more animals into the scene.
I liked it. I love puns.
Backstage one more time, Scooter tells Fozzie that he is the best comedian that ever was. Fozzie hits him with a joke, which Scooter does not laugh at and also doesn't understand. Jim's closing number is Thank God I'm a Country Boy, and it's featuring the Go-Go La-La Jubilee Jug Band, which in season 2 is replaced by a different jug band whose name is escaping me right now. But this was the season 1 jug band.
You always need more than one jug band.
Yeah. You get the end of the show. Jim tells Kermit that Scooter had been picking up after him the whole show and even picked up his accent. Scooter says, "Oh, howdy," or something like that. And that's the end of the episode.
Golly.
There you go.
It's like a catchphrase.
And that's all, folks.
Yeah.
So some fun factoids about this episode. The song, so this all is kind of crazy. So the song Money, Dr. C sings, was written by this guy, Stan Freberg, and this other guy, Ruby Raskin. Freeberg himself was a voice actor and a puppeteer in the 50s, mostly associated with Warner Brothers. Jim Henson and the Muppets first performed this on Salmon and Friends, Jim's first show, in which they lip-synced a version that was recorded by Mel Blanc, Mr. Roger Rabbit himself.
Wow.
Gone with the Wind was also sung by Guy Smiley on season 1 of Sesame Street, in which pretty much the exact same bit is done, where he's singing to a female puppet and the wind blows and all of his clothes come off and everything blows away. That's
great for kids. Yeah.
The Danceros, the failed act that you didn't get to see, unfortunately, is a Bunraku style puppet after the Japanese ancient art of Bunraku, in which 3 performers perform a full body of a puppet to create full body movement. In this case, all of the performers were covered head to toe in black velvet, but in actual Bunraku, the lead puppeteer shows their face while the other 2 are covered, as their face is considered part of the performance.
That's actually, I saw a performance of that because I go to this convention called Dragon Con every year, and it's based out of Atlanta, and the Puppetry Museum is based in Atlanta. And so they used to have performances from the puppeteers there, and they were doing that form of puppetry for the convention, and it was actually really cool.
Oh, very neat. Indian Love Call. It's from an operetta called Rose Marie, which premiered on Broadway in 1924, and then a film version was made in 1936. So really, really old school. And then Thank God I'm a Country Boy. It was a huge hit from John Denver in 1974, and then on his big chart-topping album in 1975. The reason I bring this up is that it's funny that this show clearly targeted 2 very different demographics, in that Indian Love Call is something from, the kids at the time, their parents or grandparents' generation.
Right.
Realistically. And then Thank God I'm a Country Boy was a contemporary hit.
Yeah, it's surprised you got the rights
just a few years before. And I tried to look up a song from 2018 to make a comparison about like the cultural significance and the distance if the Muppets did it now. And I didn't know a single hit song from 2018. I looked at the top 40. I did not recognize a single title.
Well, we're out of touch already in our 30s.
I'm so out of touch. So that's the final factoid, is that I am old.
When your daughter gets a little older, she'll be reminding you of what the hits are. You'll start to know them again.
Man. It's okay. I won't. I'll still be listening to 80s music.
Alexa, play 80s party music.
So, Jeremy, what did you think of the Jim Nabors episode?
This episode I thought was fun. It was direct. It was, for me, very short because I got a cut version. Yeah, and I was like, I didn't remember who Jim Nabors was. And as soon as his face appeared on the screen, I was like, oh, it's Gomer. Okay, I get it. But I did enjoy the Dr. Teeth song. I was happy to see Scooter because I'm like, oh, I like Scooter. He hasn't a big presence in the movies that we watched before, so I'm excited to see more of him in the show going forward. It just overall was pretty fun, pretty harmless. Not a lot of jokes made me laugh out loud or anything. I enjoyed watching him get his legs broken. Didn't know Jim Majors? I'm losing his name suddenly.
Jim Nabors.
Nabors, that he was an opera singer, so that was really cool.
Yeah, that's nuts. Just crazy to hear it come out of his mouth.
Yeah, and something you mentioned last time was that some of the guests going forward seem uncomfortable with the Muppets, like they don't look at them properly, they look at the puppeteers or something. And he seemed that way in the first shot, but then through the episode, he seemed much more comfortable with the Muppets.
There are a few times, and I noticed it once in the talk spot, where like he just didn't know where to look. Yeah, it's just it was quick moments. You're right, but he got caught a few times, I think.
Yeah, and I think the rest of us growing up with the Muppets, like if we met one, we would be like looking right into their eyes because we're so used to it. But this is back in the 70s, and it's maybe not everyone's so familiar with them. And so
that's true. That's true.
It'd be an awkward experience. Why am I talking to puppets? What am I doing?
What am I doing with my life? I'm Jim Nabors.
I also this is really random, but just loved how long Dr. Teeth's arms were.
Oh yeah, and you get to watch him like drift away from the piano and then drift back and see them fully. Yeah, that's real good.
Like I never noticed that before in the movies or anything, so it's really fun to watch. It's like just drifting away from the piano and he's still playing. I thought that was really cute. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's a great puppet effect. The fact that the hands are coming up from under and are covered by his like lacy sleeves, so you don't really even see the puppeteer's hand.
It's very creative. I enjoyed that.
Just very cool.
Yeah. So overall, just like a very pleasant, happy, fun episode. And Jim Nabors is a delight. I know all the guests going forward won't be like our last episode with Peter Pan actress and this guy where they're so cutesy and fun and sweet. There'll be some more like Vincent Price coming up, will be a different kind of experience.
Oh, yeah. For me, this episode's kind of lukewarm. It's right in the middle, besides having money in it, which, as I mentioned, is one of my absolute favorites. It was all right. I think Jim Nabors did an okay job. He really got to show his range, which was fun, between getting to do Gone with the Wind, which is much more operatic and ballady, and then Thank God I'm a Country Boy at the end. But yeah, this is kind of lukewarm for me.
The lowest point for me was the two dog song. I just really wasn't vibing with me. And then that one puppet looks really not
dog
Rolf.
Eat dog.
Not Rolf, but the other dog looked really
Baskerville.
Yeah, he looked very poorly made. Like it just didn't seem to fit.
He's one of the older dog puppets.
Like they hadn't remade him yet, I guess. So he was definitely looked like
That's
he was
true.
aged.
A lot of these puppets get facelifts over the years.
I would imagine they have to.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it was I agree, kind of lukewarm. Kind of like, it's fine, passable.
All right. Well, hopefully the next one's better.
Yeah, hopefully.
So Jarman, tell us all about the original series episode we watched.
Yeah, so we watched The Naked Time, which is a fun episode. So it's actually on a lot of top 10 lists of the original series episodes to watch for people.
Okay.
Because it's just fun. Shows a lot of good character moments for kind of the first time in the series. It's like, as we talked about last episode, from here on out, it's the main cast. Like there's no big changes except for Chekhov coming next season. So basically, the Federation is charged to go out in the Enterprise to observe and record a dying planet called Psi 2000. And so they want to watch the last moment of the planet's breakup and to retrieve a research team that was on the planet currently. But when they beam down to the planet, they find the entire research station is frozen over, and all the people who were working there are all dead, but they're frozen in weird positions doing strange things. Like one person was in the shower with fully clothed. One person had the engineer was leaned over his desk, but he had a phaser in his hand, and like it's just very strange. They don't know what happened. So one of the people who beams down with Spock to check this place out, and they're in these really cool, like retro, weird radiation suits. He is an idiot and takes off his glove to scratch his nose, and then touches things, and this red chemical gets on his hand without him noticing, and he rubs his face and smells it like right afterwards, like an idiot. Like what a scientist this guy is. And so he goes back in the ship. He looks a lot like the star of Psycho, by the way, Anthony Perkins. It's really cool.
I can see it.
It kind of freaked me out. But yeah, so they go back to the ship saying they don't know what happened, and Spock's like, and they had some decontaminated and everything, but it's already too late because this stuff has gotten in this guy's system, and he keeps scratching his hand, and he starts to act strangely, sweating. And eventually he starts to infect other people inadvertently. He infects Sulu, and people start getting irrational and basically acting like they're drunk. This is called the drunk episode a lot too. And so before you know it, you have more and more crew members acting strangely. Sulu eventually decides to leave the bridge and go exercise. So he takes his shirt off, and he's got a fencing foil that he's chasing crewmen around with. The original guy is just getting angry and confused, and they infect Nurse Chapel, Majel Barrett, and in her drunken state, she professes her love to Spock, and she touches him and infects him in the process. And so he starts realizing that he loves and he has passions as well, but he doesn't love her back, and he apologizes, and it makes him sad that he can't love her, and he leaves and starts crying. And a totally improvised scene, no less. They were originally going to have a corny scene with someone drawing a mustache on Spock's face because they're drunk, that guy with the paintbrush. But he decided he wanted to do a more like profound moment, so he improvised that whole scene because they didn't have enough film to do more, so he had to do one take. So it was all in one take, improvised scene. I thought it was amazing for Leonard McCoy to do that. Leonard Nimoy. So yeah, they are trying to figure out what's going on. Eventually, Kirk gets infected. But the doctor is hard at work with Sulu and the other two people in the med bay and finds a antidote, and he eventually gives everyone the antidote, and we're basically good after that. Did I miss anything? I don't think I did.
I mean, did you talk about Riley at all?
Oh, Riley! God, we
can't... at all, like the main
yes.
main antagonist of the episode.
He's not necessarily important.
Like the second half of the plot.
Yes, he's very important to the episode because Riley is basically a second guy to get infected, and he goes crazy and he's ridiculous. And he's talking about how he's an Irishman and he's singing old Irish songs. And he locks himself in engineering and lies to Scotty and tells him he's needed on the bridge. And he starts patching himself through to the entire Enterprise, singing loud Irish songs.
And hijacks the entire Enterprise, including the bridge.
Yeah, and he basically sabotages everything, either by accident or on purpose, to make the ship completely useless. And so they're circling the planet as they're going to take photographs of it, but now they can't control their trajectory. So they're basically slowly going closer and closer to the planet, and they're going to be there when it implodes or run into it. So there's kind of a race. That's also the main part of the episode. A race to basically get him out of engineering, and they had to use like a laser to get him out because he's locked himself in so well, and he's just continually singing throughout. So they finally do, get in there and this spur of the moment, and they are able to blast their way away from the planet using a very experimental process of some kind of mixing of technologies. And in the process of doing that, they discover time travel, because when they blast away from the planet with this strange technology, they are sent back 3 days in time. And so I'm guessing they were trying to use this as a device they could use later on in the show, where they could say, "Oh, well, now
that's what it seemed like. It seemed like a loaded gun."
And they should have, because in later episodes they do go back in time, but they somehow have forgotten this whole thing happened, and they use either the Guardian of Forever or they slingshot around the sun later on in the movie. So this is completely forgotten as a form of time travel, probably because it's dangerous. But it is interesting that it's very much set up like it's going to be a plot device for later on, but then it's not used. But yeah, so that's a lot of fun. And yeah, we'll talk more about Riley later, because I have some fun things for him. But so for some nice little trivia here on this episode, only a couple things. So the thermal suits I mentioned earlier that were retro and cool looking, they were actually fashioned from 1960s Art Deco style shower curtains. Which I
could see that.
If you watch this episode, you could totally see that. It's the first episode in broadcast order to feature the Vulcan nerve pinch, which is pretty cool.
Okay, I thought about it, and I couldn't remember if we'd seen it yet, but I didn't think we had.
And that's why I even have a line from Kirk saying, "You got to teach me that sometime," which is great. And then we have the first appearance in the series of Nurse Chapel, who's played by Gene Roddenberry's then mistress and then future wife. He cheated on his wife with her and then eventually married her until he died. So yeah, she's also the voice of the computer, Majel Barrett. She's the voice of the computer forever. And then she also shows up later on in Next Generation and Deep Space Nine, I believe, for a couple episodes. So she's gonna be around for a long time in Star Trek. So yeah, that's some little trivia there. So what do you think of this episode?
All right, so things I liked. I felt, you touched on this earlier, I felt like this was finally the Star Trek that I've been expecting.
Yes.
With like the characters I know from the common knowledge and what I know from the movies finally kind of coming together and going, yes, this is the thing I thought.
Right.
So that's good.
What you were expecting.
I liked then in turn, the other side of that coin is getting to see all these people that I finally felt like I knew who they were, getting to see them outside of their characters.
Yeah.
They would otherwise get to portray, Spock being emotional and Sulu being wild and out of control and undisciplined. That was fun also.
Well, see, also that's a problem for some people that brought up this episode, is it was so early in the episode airings that's like we haven't established who these people are yet to break away from their regularity to make them strange. That's like a big criticism of this episode airing so early.
Yeah, true. And with the fluctuations in the cast and people coming and going, I could absolutely see that being a problem.
But for you have some knowledge of these characters, so it's a good thing. So I appreciate that.
Right. And then I finally, Scotty was like a real character, and you really got to see him with Kirk.
Yes, so some good moments.
And it's fun to see someone have, not say leverage over Kirk, but Kirk is clearly smart enough to know that he can't do what Scotty does.
Yeah, that's a good thing that goes
unlike some other crewmen that he doesn't treat with that kind of reverence.
Right. And it kind of establishes a long-term thing of Star Trek where the best captains are the ones who put people around them that are more knowledgeable about things than them in their topic area, so they can give good advice. And that goes to Next Generation and through Deep Space Nine, all the series. So I like that a lot.
So it was really nice to see that. Things that I was less thrilled about. I know that you really love the Spock scene because you talked about it. I was really hot and cold on it. I felt like there were great and really forceful, good emotional moments. And then all of a sudden, everything felt really forced or fake. And it was all kind of back to back.
Might be some
to the point
60s
where
acting
I can't
too.
say I couldn't say I like the scene as a whole because it did take me there, but then it took me right out again.
I can see that.
The disregard for procedure for the guy itching his nose and forgetting to put his glove back on was outrageous.
Well, it happens in that movie.
I just was blown away and went, "What? Is that really what makes this episode go?"
Have you seen the movie Prometheus, the Alien prequel?
Oh yes, of course.
It's like the whole basis of that film starts because a couple of scientists touch things with their bare hands on a new foreign planet. And it reminded me of this episode. I'm like, what the hell? It's the same thing.
And my last word of criticism is it was really difficult, and I think I've complained about this in other episodes, to figure out like what the actual antagonist powers were. In this case, it was the infection and what it was actually doing.
Right.
Because, at one point, I think early Spock was like, they're being their most base self. Sulu is a swashbuckler and Riley is an Irish king. And I was like, wait, what the fuck? So this virus makes them delusional 12-year-olds? I was really, really confused. And it wasn't until, I don't know, 3/4 of the way through the episode where McCoy literally spelled out that it's like they're intoxicated.
Right.
That I finally got it. And even then I was like, when Sulu got super drunk, why would he immediately be like, I should take my shirt off and fence? Like,
you don't do that when you're drunk.
Yeah. Well, because I was like, so why does that turn him into a buccaneer? Like, it just didn't make sense to me.
I thought we all did that when we're drunk.
I think, again, it was just like the antagonist powers or what the actual circumstances were really hazy for a while.
That's fair.
Yes, but overall, really liked it. So excited that I feel like we are finally in like real Star Trek.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got to watch this with a girlfriend,
doing it.
And she, as opposed to the last couple episodes she had to watch, there's no danger of her falling asleep for this one. She seemed to be entertained the whole time, so that was kind of good watching it with her, a first time watcher.
Joyce was enthralled.
Oh, your little daughter was enthralled.
Yeah, well, she paid attention to it for at least half a dinner.
Hey, that's pretty good.
Yeah, next time we'll get the other half.
Hey, maybe. Let's hope.
So, Jarman, let's talk similarities between the Muppet Show with special guest star Jim Nabors and The Naked Time.
Well, one of them I have is both have the character singing that surprises everyone.
Ooh, okay. I like that.
Riley in a bad way in Star Trek because he's not very good. And then Gomer Pyle in a very good way because he's really good.
Both feature people in partial levels of undress. Jim Nabors getting his pants ripped off for Gone with the Wind, and Sulu losing his shirt and Kirk having his partially torn off.
Oh, yeah. The doctor just tears off his shoulder for no reason.
Just for zero reason. He just hates that uniform.
Both have a scene with a woman fawning over a man that doesn't seem to return their affection. We have Miss Piggy over Jim Nabors, and then we have Nurse Chapel over Spock.
Both feature someone being infected. In Naked Time, it's the crew, and in the Talking Houses sketch, the guy's wife has shingles.
What a connection.
I've got two more. I don't know about you.
No, you go for it.
Okay.
I'm tapped out.
Jim talks about his dual personalities with the whole Gemini talk, and this Star Trek episode is all about dual personalities.
That's true. That's very true.
And both of them make mention or show aliens taking private time. Spock taking time to go cry, and aliens using the bathroom at that yokel's place.
What a connection!
Muppet News Flash.
You're so good at
similarities. Speaking of connections, let's talk some Trek connections.
Oh, please.
So this one is great. And I ended up doing a ton of like back end research to figure this all out as I dug deeper. So Jim Nabors got his big start as Gomer Pyle in the Andy Griffith Show, and later is Gomer Pyle in Gomer Pyle USMC. He also came back and reprised his role as Gomer Pyle in an episode of The Lucy Show. All of these shows were filmed at Desilu Studios in LA.
Ah, yes.
Founded by Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball. After a series of hits that they made for other networks, including The Andy Griffith Show, Lucille Ball started shopping because she wanted to produce their own content and then sell them to these networks. And two major projects came across her desk that she loved. One was Star Trek, and the other one was Mission Impossible. She pitched Star Trek first to CBS, which turned her down. She then pitched it to NBC, which ordered the pilot. as we all know, the pilot did not do great.
Mm-hmm. The Cage.
And it was going to be shut down. Lucille Ball overrode her board of directors and agreed to help finance a second pilot with NBC. And this is the one that introduced Shatner and a bunch of other changes, and the rest is history.
Yeah, like Lucille Ball is like almost single-handedly responsible for Star Trek surviving, existing.
So then Stan Freberg, who's the guy who wrote Money, who I mentioned earlier, who was also a puppeteer and a voice actor, he performed in a puppet-based show in the 1950s called Time for Beanie, which was produced by the Paramount Television Network, what was called that at the time. This network was absorbed by Gulf and Western, a huge conglomerate, which shortly after bought Desilu Studios and created Paramount Television.
Mm-hmm.
Then later on, Paramount merged with Viacom, and then started making the Star Trek movies, and then they divided, and the rights for Star Trek went to for the movies went with Paramount, and for the television show went with CBS, which was now their television division. And that's the reason that Star Treks have been separated movies and shows for so long. And it all started way back when.
And to add on to that, eventually Star Trek Enterprise, the TV show of Scott Bakula, was on UPN, which is the something Paramount network. So eventually it found its way back to a subsidiary of Paramount for a while, but it was on UPN, so like barely anybody watched it. And it got canceled.
Very cool.
And also Leonard Nimoy went on to be a reoccurring character in Mission Impossible series that Desilu produced.
Also Desilu did.
He was like a man of disguises in that show. So it's all connected, man.
So that's just one set of MuppeTrek connections. So then I found this other one that is just so good.
Oh boy.
So there's this album. These albums, there's 4 of them, I think, called Golden Throats, The Great American Sing-Off.
Okay.
And this album is all unlikely or not known for being performing celebrities singing songs. And on the same album, on the first time they did it, Leonard Nimoy performs Proud Mary and If I Had a Hammer, which I know I've heard before.
I had that on a CD, yes, his songs.
William Shatner performs a talk version of Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds.
I had that on CD as well.
And Jim Nabors is also on that album singing You Are the Sunshine of My Life.
Nice.
All 3 of them on Golden Throats, the Great Celebrity Sing-Off.
So everybody go out and buy that CD. Nobody listens to CDs.
So that's some heavy-duty Trek connections.
That is a lot. I don't know how you find all this shit, but it's really impressive.
Dude, I just kept digging. And really the Paramount, once I found that one connection between like Paramount and CBS and Desilu, the connection just built.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. Well, I think that brings us to, what is this? Something's going
wrong.
Oh,
Transporter
God.
malfunction. Transporter malfunction.
All right. So what is your first transporter malfunction? Oh, folks, we should probably say it's still early in the show. What this segment's all about is basically we take one character from one of the series and transport them over to the other series. So they basically swap places as characters. So what's your first one?
So my first one is having Jim Nabors, but as Gomer Pyle, come over in place of Tourmaline, the idiot who took his gloves off and scratched his nose. Because his wanton abandonment of safety protocols was so laughable that I would have rather have seen it played as like a straight comedy. where Gomer Pyle like finds a piece of gum on the ground and picks it up, puts it in his mouth.
Well, golly, my nose sure itches. Oh, gosh.
Lieutenant, what are you chewing on? Well, nothing, sir.
I found this red goo on the ground. I thought I'd chew on it.
Cut that out. So yeah, Jim Nabors comes over and takes that role of the idiot.
That's fantastic. I had Jim Nabors transport over as Riley, the Irishman who sings in the engineering deck the whole time. And I think if he did that, he'd sing so well they wouldn't be so fast to want to get him out of there because it sounds so pretty. So they'd probably all die because they wouldn't be as spurned on to make it fast.
That's true.
So
they would just be enjoying themselves.
Jim Nabors would kill the entire staff of the Enterprise.
That's right. It'd be like that scene from Shawshank where they all stop and listen to the Italian opera singer.
We're going to get busy dying as this plane blows up.
Oh, man. Well, I said Riley should come over to the Muppet Show and like just sing his song, I'll Take You Home Again, Kathleen, on the stage, and then, you know, either get pulled off by a hook or like heckled by Statler and Waldorf to a point where he's got to leave, or maybe bombarded with fruit or something.
Or get choreography
so
and
bad.
sets, you know, just add on to it.
Yeah, it's equally bad singing, but it's like a huge showpiece.
Yeah, absolutely. The whole cast
I
is
get on
there.
board with that.
All right, then I have
get on board with that.
Nurse Chapel goes over and transports the place of Miss Piggy, because I thought the scene of her fawning over Spock was just like the scene of Miss Piggy fawning over Jim Nabors. So she would be really great. Just saying,
oh, you're absolutely right. That would be
I've always
great.
loved you. I've always loved you. And then Kermit being very jealous in the corner.
And Spock going and crying, "You are an officer."
And Jim Nabors saying,
Well, I think you're fine. You're a great nurse, but I can't handle this.
"Thank you, Jim. When I think of you as a friend, I am ashamed."
So there's some good transporters.
That's right. Good transporter malfunctions.
So that brings us to the end of episode 4 of the MuppeTrek podcast.
Join us next time for episode 5 of The Muppet Show with special guest Ruth Buzzy.
And original series episode, The Enemy Within.
So, from the lovers, the dreamers, and us,
live long and prosper, everyone. Thanks for listening to the MuppeTrek podcast. Be sure to follow us on social media on Facebook and Twitter.
Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform.
This podcast has been brought to you by A Play on Nerds.